Lyceum's big brother will come. Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to a Lyceum evening coming to you from the Paul Christian Spiritualist Church, and we're down on the south coast of the UK. Great delight to welcome a gentleman back to our Lyceums. Not only has he been on our Lyceums, but I've also had the pleasure of Chris staying here and working here within the church. The wonderful Chris Jacobs. Chris, good evening, sir.
Good evening, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you again. You're looking very dapper, may I say.
I try.
I can vouch for that. You do try.
People say that. I'm very trying.
Yes.
So our Lyceum evenings, everybody, we start with a topic and we just see where we go with this, with the conversation. Of course, your input is very valid and very welcome. Anybody joining us to bring forward any questions, absolutely wonderful. But we have, just so I explain the background, we have a course running here which is called Legacy, and it's not about mediumship per se. It is not about how to beat the spirit world into giving you more evidence, because it's based on a personal development. And I'm very pleased to say, not only have we got mediums themselves attending, but people from outside of spiritualism, which is absolutely wonderful. But something we were dealing with today with Lindsay Percival, and she brought up some really good topics. The sanctity of the course, says I leave them there, but they really made you think. And one thought I came away with was personal reflection on our work and reflective practices. Now, this used to be a thing within spiritualism. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, and it should be still a thing, actually. You know, you've got to look at, what did I bring to the reading, to that reading? What's my mood, my assumptions about the sitter? You've got to look at all of these things. I always think it's worth, after any reading, is sitting down and looking at this. What did I bring to this communication? Did I look more to impress than comfort? Did I hold back? Why? What surprised me, and what came through I didn't expect or understand? Reflection on this, to me, puts you in good stead as a medium. You can then be more open. If you're willing to look at yourself in these basic terms, and you suddenly start to realize, and people say, oh yes, I'm here for spirit, but are they?
Yeah.
Because you start to realize, if you go through these reflection things afterwards, was I there for spirit, or was I there for me?
Very true. It's a common thing, and we're both working medium. I'm sure you've been through this. Please say yes. Please say yes. And I know I've been through this. That we come down off the platform and we switch into this auto-destruct mode.
Yes.
We go, I didn't get this, I didn't get that, I missed this, I missed that. Why didn't I say that? Oh, I had that. Do you know what I mean? And it can be a very negative mindset, and it very quickly becomes custom and practice with us.
It is. It goes into that realm of need and want. I need to be pacified. I need to know I'm good. I want to be the best. Now, that's all good, but if that overtakes what you're doing,
very true. Very true.
Then it's not working the way it should do, really, is it?
No. Because we talk a lot about the ego within mediumship. Now, this word ego is a bit of a movable feast with some people. Some people can hear it in one light, other people hear it in a totally different light. And I always say it's when ego becomes egotistical that we have an issue. But we should have this certain to stand in front of people. You know, when you're doing an in-person den, this is not everybody's natural theatre, natural presence. And to stand up in front of people and to share philosophy, to say prayer, to bring the evidential mediumship in, that's quite a hard thing to do. It doesn't just roll off. It's not, oh, I can do that. It is actually creating that presence. This is where you need that ego to stand up there, but you need also to keep that ego in check.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I've taught for a long time, because I get a lot of people saying, oh, I'm told not to be, ego, have any ego. Ego's a bad thing. And I said, well, without ego, I can't get up there.
Yeah.
I really can't. But it's when you cross into the realms of being egotistical, then that's a whole different field. A long time ago, I was taught this, and I taught myself in the jobs that I used to have within the government and business as well, that I had to become an actor. My natural self is not able to stand up there and give it all out, and be confident about it. So, you really have to, even for a medium, I do believe, unless you're born gifted, there is a certain amount of acting that you have to do, and that comes into the realm of, ego. And without it, there'd be a lot of us who couldn't do it.
Very true. I recall back to my early days, and that was in the leisure and retail industry, so bars, pubs, and clubs. And I just naturally fell into this role that when I was behind the bar, that was my stage.
Yeah.
That was, I was there. And it was always funny because people would say, oh, do you want to go out for a drink? We'll go out and do stuff. And when I went out from where I was, people say, are you all right? Because you're really quiet. And I go, well, no, because when I'm there in the bar, I'm performing. I am the host and everything. Here, I'm just Lawrence having a beer and leave me alone and shut up.
Absolutely understand that. I used to be a licensee, and me and that, two different things altogether. Absolutely. And yes, I think with mediumship, yes, it has to be a way of life, but it doesn't have to take over your life.
Correct.
Yes, it helps in, grow, it helps you deal with life, but it's not a substitute for it. If I do not fall and scrape my knees, then I'm learning nothing.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
And in mediumship, it can't be perfect, and it never will be. I think what we have to look at here is somebody's idea of perfection is not necessarily somebody else's.
Really good point.
Because also what, and this is my understanding, my opinion here is I always look at it in this way, that, you have three minds at play there. You've got the mind of the communicator who's had their life and understands it in that way. You've got my life, and I have a completely different understanding because of circumstances and social whatever. Yeah. Then you've also got the mind of the recipient, and the clue is in mediumship is finding the middle ground.
Very much. Very much. And we do tend to fall foul, do we not, that different people... Okay, I'm going to split this into two parts. So from the viewpoint of us working, people out there will have their own yardstick of what is and isn't good evidence and what is and isn't acceptable, you know. So you've got these people sort of like measuring you against this yardstick. Obviously, we have the decorum, obviously, we have the sensitivity. But when it actually comes to the evidence and the quantity of evidence, that is purely between the spirit and the sitter.
Yes.
You know, I had this discussion recently with somebody, and they were saying about, well, they should give their name and identify them. So I said, do you know what? My mum never walked into the room and went, hello, I'm Barbara Saville. I'm 5'7". I've got blue eyes, curly hair, and I'm a little bit rotund. My mum would walk in and go, oi, what have you done now?
Yeah.
What she does.
Exactly. You know, there's that old adage, isn't it? Mavis Patilla always used, you know, we don't need a shopping list.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't. My biggest thing here, what I love to do, and I love to try and instill in people, if you can get the essence of the personality and the character, the name and everything else does not matter.
Correct.
If you can give it in, it's a Brucey bonus.
Yeah.
That is it. You know, so we're striving for things ultimately, and this is what I would like, you know, would-be mediums out there to know, is if you're striving for these things, you are seriously limiting your potential.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, you know, because you're too focused on what it is you want instead of what the spirit needs.
Very true. And part 2 of where I just was the mind of the medium.
Yes.
So number 1, we've got people out there who are saying, no, should be doing, no, they should be doing that. Well, do you know what? If you do it that way, and that's great, wonderful, please do. I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
But also the mind of the medium, because we're dealing with this stream of information coming in. And because we're human, we want to make it a story.
Yeah.
We want to weave it into this presentation, which is perfectly natural.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say to you, Chris, lamp, plant, book. But I'm looking at your background there. I love the lamp, I love the plant, and I see you're very well read with the book. So I've now taken that information and created a story. When we're working with the evidential side of things, you know, we'll get a couple of bits of information and our mind starts to then try and create this story from it, but it's not our story.
It isn't. There's always this need, and I think it's a very human need, is to make sense of our world. And because we come from that predisposed disposition, we carry that across to mediumship. And now you and I know that is never really going to work. You know, you really have to let go. You know, I love that saying, let go, let God.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to make sense to me, and it never will. You know, however I try and justify it, it won't make sense to me. I'll give you a little example. It wasn't too long ago. You know, I'm being hard on yourself, and I did this message, and I really did not like it. You know, to me, it was a bit. I thought it was itty bitty because it gave very specific things, but there was no link, if you know what I mean, to each thing. And it was all, you know, and I thought, you know, I'm trying to see some semblance of sense in that, and I couldn't. And I come away feeling absolutely terrible, you know, about it, and just think, well, you know what, I'm going backwards here rather than forwards, you know. With all my experience, you know, I'm sure you've had the same. You do. The next day, I get the most beautiful email from the person saying that everything that I'd said, if I'd put anything else to it, it would have detracted from it. It made sense, perfect sense to them. You know, so spirit world were listening to me, beating myself up, and then, you know, saying, time for a little reminder here, mate. You know, and get this letter then that says, you know, what a wonderful reading it was, or because it was exactly the way that the person in the spirit world was, and the way that the recipient is, and the way they think, you know. And I think sometimes we forget that not everybody's the same. Not everybody is all love, light, and let me tickle you under the arms, are they? You know,
My God.
everybody's different. You know, so everybody's different. Everybody's had a different experience, and everybody understands things in so many different ways. And
Exactly.
we've got to remember that.
Exactly. And this brings us back again to this topic of reflective practices. I think there is a lot of traction within our worlds for this to be looked at again and refreshed in the memory or introduced, because I'm pretty sure an awful lot of people have never been even introduced to this idea.
No.
That they coming down from a platform or off of a Zoom meeting or whatever and going, oh, I didn't get that, didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't do, and it's just like, if you keep telling yourself you're useless, that's thought goes where energy flows. It's really not a helpful thing. But if we can look at the salient points of our work, we can look at, and then we may see a pattern there of going, yeah, well, that night I was terrible. Well, I did have a roast dinner just before I worked. Maybe that's something to do with it.
Well, when I look back, 38 years ago, I was taught this very one thing, and nobody really seems to do it anymore. But I think it's the most valid thing, and the most specific and best working tool that we have, and that is a journal.
Yeah.
Any serious medium should keep a development journal, not just logging down the readings and recording dreams or whatever, but the impressions that they get, even in those quiet moments, the honest post-sitting assessments. And over the months and years, that journal becomes a map and a specific road sign of your development, your tendencies. What is your growth edges, if you like? It's the difference between having experiences, but having them and then learning from them. And so for me, this is the most valid tool that you could really have. And it's the best way of reflecting, because like we've just said, we come down and we start beating ourselves up. You write this down. Now, if we came back to a few weeks after, and we can then look at it after we've calmed down and, we've gotten back into our own body again, as it's supposed to, so to speak, then we can look at it honestly. And that, for me, that is one of the best tools you can reflective tools you can really have.
That is really good advice. That is really, and funny enough, because from the course today, the word journal came into my mind, and it's like, I don't know. So that's twice today. So obviously somebody's given me a nudge.
Well, absolutely, because I harp on about this all the time, and I swear my students get a bit fed up of it. But I keep saying to them, I swear to you, I mean, it will be invalid. I look at my journals from donkey's years ago, and I can see the growth in there, but I can also see the way, that I've changed for the better for it. The ideas and the ideals I had no longer reflect the situation or who I am now.
Yeah.
And this is invalid as I'm, as far as I'm concerned, and I also think as well, we don't give enough time to just sitting in the power, but reflectively, regular time in that power isn't just about preparing for our working. It's also a place where we can review our work and bring that to our spirit team, and let them join in that reflection, and asking them what needed to be said and what wasn't said, and was the quality of the link, you know, any better than it was, say, a month ago.
Yeah. And also mapping the changes. Just a quick comment here. Lovely Debbie Romero. Good evening, my darling. And just agreeing 100% there with what you're saying. Do you know Debbie?
Yes, I met her once now.
All right. Because there was also a comment there saying, hi, honey, and that's certainly not for me. So I presumed it was you.
Hi, Debbie.
But yes, very common thing that's said amongst mediums is spirit have changed the way they're working with me.
Oh, I don't believe that for 1 second.
Thank you. So we can both be hung and
Yeah,
beaten by the ankle.
we have changed working with them, and I'm the one. I've had this argument not so long ago, actually, with another friend of mine when they were talking about, oh, my guide's changed. I've got a new guide, and so I don't know how to work with them. And I told them, I said, what a load of bunkum that is. Because for as far as I'm concerned, your guides, yes, you have a certain amount of guides, but there's nobody going to come in suddenly randomly because they wouldn't understand you and you wouldn't understand them. So yes, they've been there in the background and you've maybe not sensed that or understood that. And when we start to feel this change of guide, it's now that it's their time to bring something into this, and they understand you. So it's not a change of guide per se, but it's just now it's time for you to work with me.
It's the shifts in our perception.
Yes.
And again, going back to the journal thoughts.
Yes, absolutely.
And go, yeah, actually, because at that time I was up against it. I had XYZ going on. And yeah, I can map that. And then things eased off. Because sometimes people, put this politely, Lawrence, sometimes people put on the mask of mediumship.
Yes.
They are whatever they are during the day, and that's absolutely fine. It's your life, you get on with it. But then on comes the mask of, oh, hi, here I am, and it's almost like a hiding place. It's like we dissociate from that, because here I am, the medium. And it's like, you know what, to me, any form of mediumship, healing, evidential, philosophical, it allows me to explore my frailties. It allows me to explore me as well as the work.
Yes, absolutely. Going back to this, the reflection, I think the hardest part of this, and to be honest, is self-assessment in our mediumship. Now that kind of cuts against the grain of the work, if you like, because the instinct is always to say it all went well and that everything was evidential and the sitter was moved. Okay. When a reflective practice asks you to be kind of like the fair witness to yourself, not that you'd want to be a mentor to that part, but because that can be quite comfortable. But it's if we can do that honest self-assessment, it's also where the real growth happens. And I think that's the hardest thing we do in mediumship.
Yeah. I agree.
It's one of the hardest things because the human, unfortunately, the human instinct is more to err on the negative, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's damned hard to be absolutely honest, either you're so self-obsessed and everything's wonderful and aren't you brilliant and you're the second coming of Christ, you know or everything's terrible and you're the antichrist.
Mm.
Why can't we just be who we are?
And again, there's a syndrome which I call the fragile medium syndrome. And this is where we tend to see people putting on the mask. I had somebody say to me once, and it was horrifying. They said, I'm only ever happy when I'm up on a platform giving messages. And I just thought, oh my God, there is so much to unpack from that one statement. I don't think I've got enough lifetimes.
I know.
Yeah. And then we displace, don't we? Because, I went, yeah, no, I'll never go back there. The energy in there was awful and it pulled me down. Well, sorry, you're responsible for your own energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what's the other one I owe it? I used to hear it. I don't hear it so much nowadays, thank God. Oh, they were blocking me.
Oh, yeah. Good old blocking.
Okay. All right. Well, if that works for you, then that's fine. Because I just say, well, smash through it.
Exactly. You do your job.
Yes, you do.
Your mind doesn't go to anything else other than that flow. So, lovely Leslie Thomas, and she's saying there, my fledglings have a journal each to enter their development after each circle, including their meditations. I still have mine after 36 years. Leslie, you can't be old enough to have a journal that's 36 years old, my sweet.
Yeah, I've got mine as well, Leslie, so I'm right there with you. I mean, it's glad to see, I'm glad to see that happens in Circle, because that reminds me so much of my own, because Circle work is very beneficial, for group reflection as well. It creates that culture where students can say, I don't think that was right, without shame, and where your teacher then can actually give that honest appraisal, which helps you in your growth and also helps you to look at yourself honestly. I think the Circle is very undervalued.
Very
Undervalued. Not everybody wants to do them now. They go to one or two workshops and then the God's gift to everything. They want to be up there and that's it. I know for me it didn't quite happen like that.
Yeah. And we've got to share a portion of that responsibility as well. Because it's not a one-sided thing. It's the availability, it's the promotion of these things, and how the wordage. I was terrible with my words. I look at them. But going back to like the journal theory there, I sat with a lady called Marjorie Fry for a little while. She frightened the life out of me. She absolutely terrified me. But what she didn't know wasn't worth knowing. But we had a journal in that circle, not only for our circle work and our meditations, but also we were under instruction to go at least once a month to a church. Well, I don't care what church you go to, you just go to a spiritualist church and you observe how the medium's working. You make comment, and if anybody got a bit snippy in their comments, you would really dress them down. She went, you are not out there to destroy them, you're out there to build yourself. Remember that. And I was, yes, Marjorie.
Absolutely right. You don't see that any day, very much now. I mean, I had the same with two circle leaders. One was the infamous Betty Wakelin, and and also and my own circle, Elsie, rest her soul. She used to check my journal to make sure I actually was writing in it.
Yeah, Marjorie did as well. She'd pick it up and start reading it. My writing's not the best. I was like,
no, mine looks like a spider's crawled across the page. But
I know, I look like I've got hiccups when I'm writing. But But that's really interesting. There we go, Chris. There's a little promotional idea for you. You can produce the Chris Jacobs Reflective Journal for Working Mediums,
Oh, wow.
where you could have the set questions to fill in after each time.
Yeah.
So
Then you're just following, but then are you just following my belief?
yeah, that is the thing.
You know,
It's
it's a tough one. I mean, I kind of think life nowadays it needs a manual, doesn't it? Everybody looks for a manual on life and how to breathe, how to live, how to, socially engage on these social sites, Whereas when I was younger, there was no such thing.
I just found out.
Yeah, you experienced it. I always remember Betty saying to me, the best form of learning is falling flat on your backside,
Yeah,
you know, and to teach you how to be humble and gracious with what we do.
yeah.
And boy, have I not disappointed on that one.
But it is so true. And there's a comment here from the lovely Leslie talking about. Bless her heart, she was scary at times. However, she knew her stuff. And this is the thing, isn't it? People actually really knew their stuff then.
Well, they were the real stalwarts, weren't they? And, yes, we think of them as scary. It wasn't, it wasn't so much that they were, they knew their stuff. They knew what they wanted. They didn't want this messing about or pandering to, certain personalities.
Yeah.
I think there's too much of that now, where we are pandering to the, well, I do it this way. Where's the person gone who says, well, actually, I want you to do it this way?
And I'm sure we've got many listeners here associated with the field, and I'm sure we've all experienced the circle sitter who's come here to tell you how it's done. One of my favourites. I love those ones.
I saw them come and go very quickly. And that was a good thing about the circle leaders then, those really strong circle leaders. They knew who was coming in. They knew who they were. Before anybody, I'll always remember, before anybody joined our circle, I also used to vet them, really. Check them out thoroughly. There was one time I had to meet her in a shop. I'll never forget. This is the last stage, when she says, when she says, what do you think of that person over there? And everything, blah, blah, blah. What's your feelings? What are you getting? So I told her, oh, good. And, that's my feelings. And they can come in. And I said to her, this is stalking. We're stalking somebody. But, that was it. It went above and beyond, because harmony and love had to come first.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah. In the circle environment, it's a fragile living organism.
Absolutely.
And one crossword, one not correct person. I'm not going to say wrong person, because I don't think anybody's wrong. It's just being right in the field where you fit. But if you have got somebody who doesn't fit, it sends these ripples going right the way through the circle.
I always remember, I've got to share this because I always thought this was, it still makes me chuckle. She had a little sign, she put a little sign on her door here, and before we went into the circle room, nobody was allowed to use it for anything else. That's what it was used for. Music was played all day, water was changed, flowers were in there, and it was used. But this sign on the door, if you've got expectations, you're in the wrong room. So true. It really was true. It still makes me chuckle when I think of that.
I was invited to sit in a circle when I was up near Manchester, and outside of the circle door was a bin and a little sign above it, put your ego in here. I was like, I like that.
That I kind of miss those little things, even though it was a serious thing, it was still enjoyable. It was still fun, even though it was a serious thing that we were entering into. But let's forget the spirit world. I don't know about your team, but my spirit team were always having fun with me. So,
Oh, yeah.
just because we class them as dead doesn't mean they've all gone stiff, does it really?
By any means.
Yeah.
You do. You just get these little odd happenings, and you think, really? You really think that's funny?
Yeah. This is really, it's really good, but anyway, I think you've given me an idea that I think I might do. I've just put another book out, so which hopefully is still with the editor at the moment, so we'll get that through. But I think that might be an idea for a third book.
I truly think, because I'm right. I'm not going to turn this into a negative fest, because there's more than enough of these online.
Oh yeah.
Talking about everything that's wrong, but we can look for room for improvement.
Yeah.
And my opinion is, we need to improve. As I say, with the actual standard mediumship, everyone's going to have their yardstick, and that's fine. That's your yardstick. You use it for your mediumship. Don't put it on mine.
Yeah.
We can critique or comment on presentation.
Can I just intercede there before?
Please. It's your.
Sorry about that. Is the fact that the people are putting these things there, but I have to ask. So what are you doing about it? How it's okay to have all these views and put them out there, and nobody's saying you're wrong. But what are you doing to change it?
Exactly. Well, this is.
And I probably stamped on a few toes there.
No,
but that's why I'm very careful in what I say and do. Because I think, yes, it's very easy to critique somebody and tell them where they're going wrong. But then how do we encourage them to make the right choice, to do it in a way that is more beneficial?
Exactly.
So if we're going to give with one, take away with one hand, we've got to give with another.
Yep. This is so true. So true. And I always say negativity is a very lazy energy. It's very easy, isn't it? I can sit here. That pillow needs changing. In fact, that pillow needs throwing out, and that picture's not quite straight there. And you can just pick up on all. But to be creative, to be positive, you actually have to start putting an energy into that.
Yeah, it's like I could just say to you, don't really like the colours of those church chairs that you've got in your church, all purple. Okay. All right. Well, it's all right. I can say that,
I know.
But then what am I going to do? Then you should come back with, do you know what's a really good idea to actually do that? How do we, about having a workshop where we can have creative paintings on these chairs, make them more individual, make it more, more of a people's place.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? By the way, I do love the purple chair, so it's all right. But, but if we're going to say that, then how are we going to combat that?
Very true. Lovely Margaret Challenger. She says, hi, Chris. All this is music to my ears. I remember in the very early years of my platform experience, the president of the church was always ready to give you some advice, and you had to listen and accept.
Absolutely. I always remember mine, which incidentally was Betty Wakelin. When you were invited for a cup of tea afterwards, then you knew you were in for some. You were getting the advice.
Okay, whether you wanted it or not.
Yes. But to be honest, I don't know where I'd be without that nowadays.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the person I am. Because I've obviously had a very different life to different people, and that had the capacity and the potential sink me, really, and I think without these people, without looking at it in the ways that they help me look at it in life, really not only just benefited me in my mediumship, but it benefited me in my life and as the person I am. So it goes quite hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know,
I
if you're
agree.
going to, I've got a little saying, and I'm going to, hopefully I might regret it, I don't know. If you're going to be a good medium, then be a good human being.
Music to my ears. I'm not going to go into this. I'm not going to open up this package, but with everything going on at the moment, I'm just like, right, this is human beings talking about human beings, and it's outrageous. You wouldn't be treated like that. So how do you justify treating others? Wow. Anyway.
Absolutely.
See, I've got somebody on my side. I've got the Reverend Ashley Oliver on my side.
I didn't say I didn't like it, so you're right. It was just the first thing that came into my mind. Okay.
I know. I'm just jesting.
Lovely hi, Karen. I love Karen. Best friend.
But it is so true, isn't it? As I said, our part, if we talk about the evidential medium path, so whether in the services online, which is part of the world now, or in person, it is a personal journey. It's not a place we go to.
Yes.
We don't go to that place. I'm not going to go to be the medium. I am the medium.
Yes.
I'm the medium from when I wake up, go to sleep, walk through the door, whatever. I am the medium.
Yeah.
And we are working with that here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking at the evidential, the evidential side of mediumship, I don't think we give it enough expression. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at there?
Yeah.
I think, we can't forget, yes, these people are in spirit or dead, whatever we want to call them, but they still want to express who they are.
Oh, hugely. Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer, if they're going to do that and they take all this time to give you the evidence of who they were, why aren't we bringing of who they are now?
But we do, but we lose it.
Yes.
We've done a few services here, and it was an idea first put to us by a lovely lady over in Holland. And we just changed the format of the divine service. We start always with the healing, because that is our foundation. That really brings that place together. Then we moved into the evidential mediumship. Then we had people who'd receive a communication, if they wished to share some feedback from it. That's always so fascinating.
Yes.
Because, when in and through that communication, this is, to me, when we're using our evidential mediumship, we're instigating this conversation.
Yes.
We're not there to say 6'2", eyes are blue, rode a motorbike.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very brave thing to do that in an open forum, isn't it? To invite the owners to feedback. No, there's not many mediums who would do that.
You do need the conditions to be right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want it to be a bloodfest, do you? Really?
Yeah. You do need the conditions to be right. Part of the thinking as well. Oh, I will add, after that, our end note is then the philosophy, and at the end of the philosophy, the service finishes. So that last thought of going out of the door is with the philosophical value, which brings in a very different energy. Interesting.
Yeah.
But part of the thinking, I've been looking at the big theatre mediums. We've
Yes.
got one in tonight, the wonderful Craig Morris.
Oh, hi, Craig.
Looking at, how do you feel theatres? Not in a detrimental way. Why are you getting that? Nothing like that energy. How do you do that? I want to know. How do you do that? Part of it is in the theatres, the sitters engage more in a conversation. In the churches, and I am well known guilty for this, so I am no way innocent. Yes, no, or don't know. Well, there's no conversation there. There's no conversational value.
Yeah. I think I can understand both sides of the fence then. I think we do have to try and meet that middle ground. But the emphasis is a communication.
Yeah.
So, if you don't invite, that little bit of communication in there, because let's not forget that this dear old lady you've just given, so you've started to give this evidence to her, and she's remembering and going through all of this. This is her husband who's passed away, and they've spent the last 40 years together. All she wants is, she doesn't want to just hear the random set of words, does she? She actually wants to be part of that conversation with him too. So sometimes you've got to let it go. You've got to remember, that's what it's all about, to bring those two souls together again.
Yeah.
Don't just, it's so easy that we can just stand there and fire out all this sort of thing. And we don't, there's some mediums I've seen don't even give them the chance to say yes, no, I don't know.
Oh,
And I just think, whoa, where's the communication in that?
yeah.
You're just ramming something down their throat.
I kindly tag those mediums as what I term as a bulldozer medium. Blah 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 blah. And you sat there in the chair thinking, "Oh my God,"
It's a bit overwhelming, isn't it? Really?
It can be. Very. So the lovely Karen has just signed herself up for a job. Apparently, she's going to run some forums and groups and put forward ideas and good ideas to be actioned in spirit. Well done, you, Karen. Thank you. We look forward to seeing that.
You better be careful.
She's hundreds of miles away from me. And I can
but
run
she is
very,
coming
very
to join you next year.
Shh.
And she doesn't forget that easy, do you, Karen?
I know she doesn't. But yeah, sharing ideas.
I think there is, but she's given a good thing. We do have these little groups here, we do have to, I think we're in need of some sort of forums, these groups where we can float our ideas, even, working mediums, we still need a place to go and to float different ideas out there, and hear what we can, how best we can utilize that. What can we do with it? Instead of always trying to chase it around your little brain. Don't know about you, it gives me a headache.
I should give up. I normally find the cider at that stage and start on that.
Yeah.
So lovely Ashley Oliver just saying, beautifully said, Chris, we are the curators of the message of eternal love.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about, and that's my key message, to anybody. What we do is to bring those two souls together, whether they loved each other, they hated each other, or whatever. They've taken the time to come together, and we've got to facilitate that. We are the facilitator of love.
Yes. Yeah, pure and simple.
Pure and simple. We don't need all the bells and whistles on top of it all.
Mm-hmm. And going back to this thought about the forums and the talks, we need to relearn what debate is.
Yes,
I think
definitely we've forgotten how to, debate is more dictate nowadays, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. It's dictate or tirade, isn't it? And it is. Do you know what? You can have a different opinion to somebody else, and do you know what? That's fine.
Hmm.
This is great.
Yeah,
Not,
it
I'm,
is.
yeah. This is not a contest. I've got to win because I'm right. If that's what you believe, that's wonderful. I
Yeah,
go along this line because of X, Y, Z, and that's just
yeah.
super.
And that's the beauty of the human race, isn't it? You know, that we kind of all have different opinions, but hopefully we can take something, no matter how small, from that and
Hugely.
let it grow from us. You know, going back to the, in the reflective mediumship, is I always, after I've taken a class, I've listened to everything that my students have said. And I love to just reflect on that and think, you know, when I was in that position, did I ask these questions? Did I do that? How was it answered to me? How much have I grown since then? And look at what's the learning can I get from them? And there is a lot of learning from our
Oh,
students, even
yeah.
without them knowing it at all.
Every time you teach, you learn. Every
Of
time.
course you do.
And if you
You
don't,
know,
sorry, you're doing something wrong.
And I believe just meeting people, on the street, wherever you've done, I've just come back from holiday, meeting those people and speaking to them that I've never seen before in my life. And yet I've learned so much from them.
Hmm.
And that's beauty, if we just be open as human beings, but also be open in our mediumship, because I do believe there's been this tiniest little bit of closed mediumship, what I call,
Yeah.
where I'm right, you're wrong, that's it.
Hmm. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Lovely, Ashley. A professional disagreement is different to a personal issue. So
Mm.
true. So true. We do, don't we? We take it straight away personal.
Yes.
Um, yeah, the emotional body, it really gets in the way. It is a sign of a healthy organization to be able to withstand dissent and for people to be free to dissent.
Yes. Absolutely. Couldn't put it better myself, actually. That's so very true, you know? And I kind of, I believe in the human race. I believe in mediumship. I believe in the power of the human soul and the people. For everything I see that disheartens me at the moment, I believe we'll get there.
Yeah,
I have to have that belief.
yeah. And again, as I say, it's the positive and negative energy. Negative energy sells newspapers. Negative energy fills newscasts.
Absolutely.
But for every negative, there's probably about 50 positive things happening out there that we can
Yeah.
lose sight of. But if we
Um,
look, my neighbours got their grandkids down, and I love their grandkids. And they turned up, and it was, oh, Lawrence, and I was like, oh my god, they remember how nice. Do you know what I mean? It's just those little things.
yeah.
But we
We,
walk away, don't we, going, oh, well, that didn't happen, that didn't happen. Oh, God, this is going on.
yeah. We've got
It's
to
like,
learn to take enjoyment out of life. And I think we've got to do that with our mediumship.
oh, yeah.
You know, I, I always feel some souls, I think, they're very hard on themselves and they put themselves under such amount of pressure, but then I say, where's the enjoyment in it?
Mm,
You know, because if it's putting you under all this stress and strain, what are you doing it for?
yeah. And all the preamble, we had a conversation very recently. I always get so stressed out. Yeah, because you're stressing yourself out. I don't know why you're stressing out.
Yeah. I mean, we all get nervous and that's
Yeah.
that's healthy. I worry if I don't. Um, but to really stress to yourself to the point of, my God, you're nearly going to pass out or something, it's not.
Mhm.
It just isn't worth the effort.
It's that reflection, isn't it, of self-doubt, because again, self is going to mirror into our evidential mediumship, whatever form our mediumship. So
Yes.
if you have very low self-esteem, that's going to be in there. You know what? To me, that's an invitation to start looking at and going, well, why am I like this?
Yes,
What
absolutely.
what has brought this into me? Why do I not think?
Mm. Yeah, it's a pretty tough one, you
Hmm.
know, a pretty tough one. It's I think it's something that we can debate on forever,
Yeah,
really.
definitely.
You know, I mean, the saying that I remember when I was young and a kid, and that, mediumship isn't as good as it used to be then, as well. And yet we're still saying the same thing, you know. So if it isn't, so what's going wrong?
Yeah. Is mediumship not as good as it used to be, or has our perspective shifted where we're not seeing the beauty? You know what? I always call it the miracle. I'm
Yes,
sorry, this person is dead and they are talking to you.
yes,
As far as miracles go, I really don't know what you're looking for.
it is. I mean, it shoots logic in the foot, doesn't it? Because logic tells us we can't speak to the dead. Well, here we are,
Ta-da.
you know. So, absolutely, I think that is the most perfect way to bring this to a close. Is the mediumship is a miracle, but also don't forget, you are a part of that miracle.
Yeah, you facilitate that.
You do. So
And
take ownership of it. Work with it instead of against it.
work with it, enjoy it, and have that reflective moment after. What did it bring to me? What did I take from that?
Absolutely. And
Where
for
was
God's sake, get yourself a journal.
Yeah. Coming soon to a bookshop near you, the Chris J. Curbs Reflective Practice Journal. Very quickly, just go through a couple of statements here. Lovely Karen, she's saying she's happy to set up all this. Thank you. We'll talk, Karen, because it's interesting.
Yeah.
And she also goes on to say, I look at mediumship as meeting and having a conversation with someone you haven't met before and finding out about their life and how they lived. Yeah.
Well put. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thoroughly agree.
And the added dimension in this day and age is when we're working with people in different countries. I find this absolutely fascinating.
I do.
Yeah,
I love Zoom because it means that I get to meet people all over the world that I would never have met in my life before.
exactly. And in our
Yeah.
mediumship, we're meeting these
Yeah.
people who are talking about something, and you go, I have no idea what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
And it's understood, and I'm going, oh, great, thank you. Anyway,
And that's pushing yourself a little bit. Don't be afraid to take that step. The ground will always be there.
yeah, definitely. Chris, thank you so much.
You're more
Absolute
welcome.
pleasure. And what a wonderful evening. How it's almost like somebody new, but it is worked so well. Thank you, thank you.
It has. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's gone so quick.
It has flown.
It really has.
Next Saturday, we have Len Tat with us. Some of you may remember Len. If you've not met Len, I suggest you make the effort to, because Len's philosophy I absolutely adore, although after 2 minutes of it, my brain starts to seep out of my ears. He's an amazing guy. So I'm looking forward really to reconnecting with Len after a few years. Remember too that you can watch our services live from the church on Sunday mornings on Facebook and YouTube. And tomorrow we have Anne-Marie Hogan, CSNU, with us. But in the meantime, Chris, have you got anything exciting coming up?
Working in Devon next week with I'll be seeing the lovely Billy there as well, Billy Cook, and so at the Paynton Church. my book's just about to be published, and classes, all sorts. My mind's awash.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's what I love. One of the things with you, Chris, that I love is you're always busy. You're always getting this movement going. So well done.
Oh, thank you.
In the meantime, thank you all for being here tonight. And if you're watching later on Catch Up, where were you? No, if you're watching later on Catch Up, welcome, welcome, welcome. But thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful, peaceful evening and take care. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.